Hey guys,
Oh,
welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while.
yes, it has been a while.
Well, probably not for you guys because we didn't upload the last episode either. So this is like coming out the typical interval after the last episode. But the last one was a while ago or whatever. So yes, today we have a special guest as per usual for season 2. Would you like to introduce yourself, Red?
Hello. Hey, my name is Red Castin. I am a YouTuber who cares way too much about many things, one of them being the discussion of today's episode.
Yes.
And would you like to introduce us to what we are talking about today?
We are talking today about the objectively best album by the objectively
hold on.
best. What?
We're jumping in the water.
He started it off with objectively the best.
Yeah.
All right, tell us what album we're talking about before we jump into this whole discussion. But continue. Sorry.
It's okay. So this album we're talking about is objectively the best album by objectively the best band during their objectively best period. This is Weezer's Maladroit.
Yes, sir. Weezer's Maladroit. This is their 2002 release. It's a IMO. It's a bit underrated, but it's like also like people call it underrated so much that it's not.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but you think that it's like underrated in the sense that it should be considered their best album by everyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not underrated if you're talking specifically about fans of Weezer, because, people who were like diehard fans obviously know what it is, but when you look at the mainstream or, just the general sentiment about Weezer, it's all about the Blue Album, it's all about, Buddy Holly, Beverly Hills, and this is just one where, for one reason or another, it just completely goes unnoticed in most of the discussions.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I for one really like this record. I think that in my listen through of Weezer's discography, like the first time I listened to it, I didn't really process a lot of what was going on, but as I continued through their discography and continued to like listen to their music a lot more, I gained a much greater appreciation for it as the years went by, or rather as the year and a half went by, because I haven't been listening to Weezer for all that long. It's been like the last 2 years, but I really like this record. But before we jump into the track by track, do you want to tell everybody about the link of the day?
Oh, me? Yeah, so
Whoever.
the link of the day it is a dramatic reading of Rivers Cuomo, the singer of Weezer, his actual genuine Spotify bio, which continues to be that to this day, and nobody is doing anything about it.
It's so funny to me because like the first time I read it, I was just like, "Hey, yo, what the heck?" And like also like if you look through his like pictures that he has, they're also just like he's he's very clearly having a great time just getting to do whatever he wants on his Spotify page. Um, and I think, don't quote me on this. Actually, no, feel free to quote me on this, and if someone corrects me, that's fine. I believe it is just Little Xan's
Yeah,
Spotify bio, but he just took it and just put his name in instead of Lil Xan.
yeah,
And
it
it's
is Lil
so
Xan.
funny.
I don't
But
I
know.
wouldn't be
yeah,
surprised.
Yeah, because there was a thing. I don't know if he did it because I think I heard he tweeted about it and he kind of he wasn't really a fan.
tweeted about like, so you think somebody else might have put that up as his bio?
I think so.
That's even funnier. Like he's just like, I'm not a fan of it, but I'm not really gonna do anything about it. Someone else just thought it was funny to make this my bio, and I don't really care. Rivers Cole was such an interesting character. I love him. He's so great.
I do love it's weird because he totally embraces just the weird chaos that is the Weezer fandom because he has to. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, and I don't think that the fandom would be as weird if Rivers wasn't as odd and peculiar of a fellow as he was. Like, I think that if it was just like any normal kind of rock star singer that was just kind of like in it for the clout or whatever, like the fan base would be a lot less odd. But it's this just nerdy guy, just like who just really likes metal and a lot of stuff. And so it's just like he just embraces how wacky the fan base is. But yeah, let's jump into the album real quick. So to start off, first off, what are some overall things that you really like about the album before we jump into the track by track?
Well, I feel like it's the pinnacle of what Weezer's sound could be. And it was because you had it's so hard to talk about the album without going into all their discography, but I'll do my best not to. So you've got the Blue Album, which was their big debut, Buddy Holly, Say It Ain't So, all the good stuff. You've got Pinkerton, that was kind of emo and wasn't really taken well at first. And then you've got the Green Album, which was kind of, a lot of people find it kind of boring because it was very safe, very short, very compressed. And then you have Maladroit, which was kind of this next logical step in their sound. It had that same kind of good production of the Green Album, and I don't know if I'd say mainstream sensibilities, but it had like the next step of taking the Green Album and making it just bigger and fuzzier and a little more ballsy. And it's definitely the most ambitious album they've ever done.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with a lot of those points. I think that it takes a lot of what I really like about Pinkerton's aesthetic with the sort of rougher, heavier guitars, and then it takes the pop sensibilities of Blue, not the pop sensibilities of Green, because I feel like Green watered down the structure to a science, and that's why I really don't like Green. But it took like sort of like the very poppy structures of Blue with like still some rock elements thrown in, and then it just made it crunchy. And oh man, I love the aesthetic of this album. It's so yeah, I this album, like when I was listening to it to take notes for the podcast, I was just like, I forget how much I enjoy this album. Like it's
It's
just a
so
fun time.
explosive. It's just so explosive
Yeah.
and fuzzy and just ballsy. And I think I might have like I might have said it wrong when I was kind of comparing it to Green. I just it doesn't sound like the Green Album, not at all. It just
Yeah.
really really felt like the next logical step to go from where they were heading. And why they decided to follow it with
Yeah.
Make Believe, I will never understand.
Make Believe was such a disappointment. But yeah, Mel, what were your thoughts on the album, having this being your first Weezer album proper?
Yeah, so it's interesting how this happened. So Ryan's been trying to get me to listen to Weezer for I don't even know how long. And so basically he finds Red, and now Red's coming on the podcast to listen to Weezer. And whoa, I have an opportunity to listen to Weezer now. So like I literally have not listened to Weezer except for the Lil Wayne track and the Frozen track. So for me, I actually really enjoyed it. First listen, and well, first time I was just kind of sitting there. I was doing homework, but like the second time, I was like, this is actually it's interesting. And this is me having no context. Like haven't heard their other albums, so yeah, it's a good introduction for me. So I'm gonna end up in the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I literally, when I reached out to Red, I messaged him um, through Reddit because I found him on the Weezer subreddit because I had watched some of his videos. I even have a pinned comment on one of his videos. Actually, the link of the day, my comment is pinned, which I think is just a great
Let's go.
it's coming full circle. But I just messaged him. I was like, "Hey, would you want to come out onto our podcast? I want to force my friend to listen to Weezer." And I forget exactly what your response was, but it was something along the lines of "I'm always down to force somebody to listen to Weezer" or something like that. And so now we're here.
Yeah, I was like,
But yeah,
listen,
American Gigolo.
it is my civic duty to force people to listen to Weezer. I will happily ruin your friend's life.
Very cool. Yeah. If 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 all of our lives have to be ruined, your life has to be ruined too, Mal. I'm sorry. It's
I'm
just
now in this.
it's what you are now in the depths of becoming a Weezer fan.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
starting with Maladroit, you're going to be doing what I've been doing since I heard Maladroit is just chasing that initial high, going with their discography and sticking with it, just hoping that you can feel that buzz again. And I'm sad to say it never happens.
That's sad. Yeah, from what I've seen, I assume you guys will get into this, but from what I've seen about this album is the Weezer fan base is like very crucial to the development of this album and a lot of their music. So yeah, I'm interested to just like see you guys' takes on it because I'm fresh.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, let's just jump straight into it. With the first track, American Gigolo. I think that this is just like an absolutely fantastic opener. I'm a sucker for any time that it's just drums opening a track. And it's such a, like, the production on the drums is so crunchy and the riff is so cool. And then I love that when the guitar riff kicks in and it's just like this really heavy sound, and you're just like, okay, we're in for a ride. This is heavier than everything else they've done before.
Yeah, it sets the tone for the album perfectly. And it just feels like the message of the song is just everybody be quiet, we're gonna be loud as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is just an incredibly loud, incredibly big. I also, one thing that I really like is in the guitar solo section. It This is where I feel like in the Weezer discography, I see the Nirvana influence the most. Is like this guitar solo, the way everything thins out under the guitar solo, it just feels so grunge.
Yeah.
And it's not something where it's like you hear Rivers talk about his Nirvana influence, but it's like I don't feel like you really see it except for as clearly as a lot of points on this album. But like this specific track, I'm like, this feels like it could very easily be like a Nirvana track or any of those grunge bands at the time.
I've never thought of it like that, but you're right. It definitely does seem like it would maybe fit in with maybe like Bleach.
Yeah, Bleach probably. I haven't listened to Nirvana super extensively. Like I've listened through Nevermind and I'm aware of Bleach's aesthetic, like I'm aware that it's a bit rougher. But I'm not super familiar with Nirvana. I think that I just prefer Weezer, so it's just like I never bothered to get into them.
Yeah, I mean,
But
my
yeah.
my big three high school bands were Weezer, Nirvana, and Green Day, and Weezer is the only one that I've like actively listened. I'm 28 now, and Weezer is the only
Aha.
one that I've like actively listened to throughout, like continuing from there.
Yeah. It's always cool when a band sticks with you. I don't know if you had any thoughts on the track, Mal.
Oh, I my only note here is the keep. That's literally my only note.
Oh yeah, like the
The
vocals as well.
background,
Like I
yeah.
love, yeah, the vocals add a lot of texture to the track. Like I think that it could have just easily have been like this sort of like just everything is heavy and low end stuff, but like the high pitched vocals on top of it, like they just add a whole new dimension to it. And like I think that that's one of the things that gives this record as a whole its color, and like that's one of the first instances you see of it. And so yeah, I think it's just a fabulous opener.
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. And then on to Dope Nose. This is, in my opinion, the catchiest track on the record. Like, it's this was the lead single, right, Mal? Or not Mal, Red.
Yeah,
I don't know.
dope, dope nose and keep fishing.
Yeah. And so this is one of the ones that I get stuck in my head a lot, but I really like the melody on the chorus is just really, really good. Like it's just like I get that stuck in my head. Da 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 da. It's just so catchy, man. Like I'm just like it just fills me with the happy juices.
Definitely. It's weird because it's one of the more like simple songs on this record, and one of the things I really like about this album is that it's not particularly simple, but this one is it gets a pass because it is just super catchy and super bumpy, and I feel like they kind of got the with this and Keep Fishing, I feel like they kind of got the singles out of the way early to just kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, let's get the sellable stuff out of the way immediately, and then we can get into the weird shit a little bit later.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the more simple tracks structurally, but like even it on its instrumental end, I think the metal riffs coming out of the chorus into the solo, I love the way that it incorporates that style. And like it's Weezer didn't Rivers Cuomo is unapologetically a metalhead, but this track is like one of the first examples you can see of him like really digging into the style of riffs of that are so popular in like melodic thrash metal and like hair metal and all that good jazz. And it's just so cool. And I love the way that adds so much. I'll be talking about the solos a lot because there's a lot of really good solos on this album. But
Me
yeah,
too. I've got my
just do
notes in front of me, and I just see loud solo, loud solo, loud
Yeah.
solo. Yeah, I actually had
yeah.
because I'm a big trivia nerd. I love trivia, like niche trivia about things I like, and I compulsively recite trivia to everybody who will listen and probably wishes they weren't listening. But I had because the in this song, Scott Schreiner, the bass player, is often the one who sings it live, and I misread that piece of
Oh,
trivia.
interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why, but I mean, he kind of sounds like Rivers, but a little more off key. But I misread this piece of trivia on Wikipedia, and I thought that Scott Schreiner was the one singing it on the album. So I would go around telling everyone that, and they'd be like, "No, that's very clearly Rivers," and I'd say, "No, he's amazing. He sounds just like Rivers. He's like a brilliant mimic."
Little did you know it was actually Rivers.
Little did I know. And then my
Little
friend said,
Wikipedia.
it's Rivers on the video. And I'm like, yeah, because they wanted to like show how good he sounds like him.
But he
Yeah.
sings it live. That's super fascinating.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
there's a couple of them. Like I think Brian is often the one who sings "Keep Fishing."
That's interesting. I think that the element of it just being Rivers and crew, like that's kind of the way that Weezer turned out like post Pinkerton is it just became Rivers and crew as opposed to like n- a band where it felt like every member was contributing equally. But I think it's always so cool to have moments like that where different bandmates are just like doing more. Like I think about the I think it was the Ratitude tour where they just brought on another drummer so that their drummer could play guitar so Rivers didn't have to play guitar.
Yeah, that was so weird because the drummer was Josh Freese, he's a popular session drummer. He's worked with Offspring and like a lot of other mainstream acts, and it's just yeah, they brought him on to be the drummer, and Pat played lead guitar, and Rivers was just the most awkward frontman, just stiffly standing there with his microphone.
Oh gosh.
I think it's just incredible that someone is this is just turning into a Weezer podcast at this point, but I mean that's kind of the nature of the band. Like all of their work is just so intrinsically linked. But
This is what I
it's
was
just like
saying. Like when you asked me my thoughts on Maladroit, I'm like, well, how much time do you have? Because I'm literally going to go into Rivers Cuomo's blood type and just as much as I can link to it.
Yeah, it's better
do
than
you
us.
actually know his blood type?
No. I
I was
haven't
about
got
to say that's
I haven't
crazy.
gotten the sample tested yet.
Oh,
Mm,
okay. He has one.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back from the
we'll
lab.
we'll put an update out on our Instagram page when you get that information. So people stay tuned for that. If you want to know Rivers Cuomo's blood type, you just gotta wait a little bit for the test to get back from the lab.
Yeah, well, I'm not sharing it. It's not like I'm sharing it or anything. It's all for me. But if you want to know.
Oh, never mind, never mind. This is insider information. But yes, speaking of the singles on the record, Keep Fishin'. This is another one that I really like. I like a lot of the songs on this record. It's just a good record. Like it's kind of like how I don't remember. I feel like there was an episode, Mal, where I just kept saying I really like this song. It might be a lot of the episodes, but I was just like, I just kept saying, "Oh yeah, I really really like this song," and then it was just like, "No, I think you just like the whole album," and I was like,
I
"Yeah,
I remember one of that because one of the episodes of the podcast I listened to was the Pink Floyd one, and at the end of it, I was just
oh
like,
yeah,
man, why does he hate Pink Floyd so much?
yeah." No, I absolutely cannot stand Pink Floyd. I cannot stand Oh my gosh. I wish that I could just go into the shoegaze copy pasta, but just replacing it with Pink Floyd isms. That was a bit from a previous episode. Wait,
Yeah.
Mal, we got our Pink Floyd reference in. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a running thing. Every episode we have mentioned Pink Floyd in some capacity.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Well, so good.
It is always natural. It's never like forced to some
Nice.
extent.
Understandable.
It's never forced until I'm like, unless I see some like thing where it'd be like a really funny stretch to get to Pink Floyd, and then I'll do it for the bit. But for the most part, it's just like Pink Floyd comes up a lot. I think it's just because I listen to a lot of Pink Floyd, or I did for a while when we were recording these, like especially for the first season. But yeah, it always comes back to Pink Floyd, the podcast's favorite band.
Yeah, I
that
feel
point.
like you're like this like boomery dad who like makes sure to reference like all the time, like, oh yeah, you mean like Pink Floyd, right? That's real music.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys think that all of this funny K-pop and hippity hoppity and Kendrick Llama, you think all that's good? You should listen to some real music. Dark Side of the Moon, baby.
I love
Yes.
like semi-ironically telling younger people like I listen to real music like Weezer.
And then people just laugh at you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, why? Why is that funny?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, Weezer, how have you fallen?
Oh.
Yeah.
But you know
He,
the thing about Keep Fishing is, have you guys have seen the music video, right?
I
No,
have.
actually.
Yeah, I actually prefer the version of the song on the music video because it's a little bit different. Like it keeps it mostly acoustic until about that first pre-chorus, and at the end during that last repetition they have Brian doing these background vocals where he's like get a job.
Oh, that's only in the
Interesting.
video.
Yeah, it's the video with the Muppets.
This is
Nice.
the this is one of two collaboration that Weezer did with the Muppets. Fun fact.
Of
What was the
course.
other
You
one?
know, as you do.
Wait, what
Gotta
was
get
the
your
other
The
one?
Muppets.
second the other one is them singing Rainbow Connection on the Green Album. Not the Green Album by Weezer, the Green Album, the Muppets compilation.
Oh, ha ha ha.
And I just
Yeah.
think that it's so funny because also Haley Williams is on that recording, which is it somewhat works. Like the Connection recording kind of works, but the energy is really odd on that track. But I just think it's funny that you have two Muppets tie-ins for this band Weezer. It kind of has the same energy as the MCR video, Every Snowflake's Different, that's just like a Yo Gabba Gabba thing. It's like, why would MCR collaborate with Yo Gabba Gabba? That just makes no sense.
I do remember that Rainbow Connection now that you mention it. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
quite the experience. You know, you know who makes, like, Yo Gabba Gabba is created by the singer for the Aquabats. And, like, I
Oh,
think that's
interesting.
why he has a lot of musicians on the show. Like, Weezer has been on an episode, and they did the thing with
Of Yo Gabba
MCR,
Gabba?
and yeah, because I think because
Whoa.
he also had Tim Armstrong from Rancid voice a background character. So I think it's mostly, like, his connections from being in the Aquabats.
You know, those
Wow.
connections while you're like in the scene do a lot for you.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Those deep Yo Gabba Gabba cuts.
deep.
Never would have thought.
Yeah, but I don't remember the exact story of how this song was written. I think it was like Rivers. What were the exact drugs Rivers was on? Didn't he like do like a butt ton of Adderall and then sit down and just write this song and he has no clue what it's about?
If I remember correctly, I think it was Ritalin and 2 shots of tequila.
That'll do it.
Now it is time for our other running joke. Don't do drugs, kids. Joke over. But yeah, I love this is one of those examples of one of these like tracks where it's like the lyrics don't make sense, but you don't really care. Like it's just like listening through it, you're just like, oh yeah, this is just like a vibe. But the lyrics are just kind of put together in this way where it's like they sound good together. And later in Weezer's discography, you have some more examples of things like this when Rivers Cuomo switched over to this spreadsheet style of songwriting where he'd basically just like write a bunch of snippets of lyrics just and they're just tucked away in spreadsheets on his computer. And then what he'll do is he'll like as he's writing songs, he'll like pick things out from different like parts of his spreadsheet. So it's just like this big crazy mesh of a bunch of random lyrics. And so you get songs that don't make a whole lot of sense, especially on things like the White Album. The White Album is notorious for having these moments of just like, wait, how do these two lyrics fit together? And then they just really don't, but they sound good together, so you don't really care. But This is Rivers doing that without the use of spreadsheets, and instead he uses drugs to come up with this effect, which I think is incredibly fascinating.
And I think also sounds a lot better.
Yeah, but you're a Maladroit simp, so
Fair.
opinion invalid. I personally really like the White Album.
I love the White Album. Honestly, I'd say the White Album is probably third. My second being Pinkerton. Like I
that is
dig
an
the White Album.
extremely good take.
Thank you.
That is like, so Mal, for reference, there's this sort of untouchability that a lot of Weezer fans give their first two albums, Blue Album and Pinkerton. Like, it's like the 90s Weezer was the peak of Weezer. Nothing else past that is any good or will ever compare to it. But I am of the belief that the White Album is the single greatest example of why that is not the case, and I think people are just too scared to put the White Album as better than the Blue Album, because the Blue Album, A, has all the classics, and B, putting the White Album better than the Blue Album disrupts their narrative of Weezer was only good in the 90s.
I get down with the White Album more, honestly. Like, especially lately, I've been compelled to listen to it more often.
Yeah, for sure. Dang. We are hitting a lot of rabbit holes today. This is going to be an interesting... We're 30 minutes in. We're only like 3 tracks in. Oh my gosh.
Let's go. 10 minutes a track.
10 minutes a track,
Let's
yeah.
go.
But before we get like too deep into the rabbit holes, let's kind of keep pushing forward to take control. I think that this is probably the most metal sounding track on the entire record. Like, the riffs are just these really crunchy guitar riffs. It's just opens up on the chorus into this huge explosive, like, very open sounding thing. That's one of my favorite euphemisms, or I don't know, analogies, I suppose, to use about music, is the difference between open music and closed music, where it's like very staccato. I think of it as closed, but then for the chorus, when things open up, I absolutely love that, and this track does that fabulously.
Yeah, I love it, and I agree. That's actually one of my notes, is how this is about the metal sounding. Like, I feel like a lot of this album was Rivers being frustrated with people not believing him that he was a metalhead. And like, this is like, no, really, like, I know metal. I know how to do this. And just those opening power chords are so catchy, and then that palm muting when it gets to the like the palm muting with the heavy distortion when it gets to the verse is just so metal. I love it.
Yeah. I have written down here last chorus. I don't know why I wrote last chorus, but something about the last chorus just I think I remember it hitting different when I was listening to it, but I can't remember why I wrote that down. Maybe you have thoughts on that?
I feel like I don't have. Well, here's what I do have. I don't have anything on the last chorus, but I wrote, because I play guitar, and I wrote that this song was simple to play but fun, but I spelled the but with 2 T's. I don't know why I did that, so it is very simple to play but fun.
Yes.
But this is, I
Matt,
feel
do you
like...
have any thoughts on the track?
Yeah.
Not really. I was watching the video while you guys are talking. The Muppets.
Oh, word. I mean, that's acceptable.
Yes. Good old
I think that we have a bonus link.
yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
But I feel like this track is what begins, like, the real Maladroitness. Like, you've gotten the singles and the poppier stuff out of the way, and, like, this is when the weird stuff happens, and this is when, like, you realize, oh, you're really in for a thing here.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a lot heavier than a lot of the album before it, and I think it doesn't get a whole lot heavier from there, but, like, as you said, it gets into the more experimental stuff, like even going into Death and Destruction. This track is almost post-rock inspired, with the way that it kind of slowly builds up to the chorus, and I love Death and Destruction. It's another one of my favorite tracks on the record. It's probably my second or third favorite, but yeah.
And that
I
lead
absolutely
guitar...
love the vocals on it.
Yeah, the vocals are
that's it,
great,
yeah.
and the lead guitar really shines. Like, they just have the leads just taking over for the entire song. It's just so...
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I absolutely love the way at the end of the chorus, turn and look the other way, and then you just have the guitar arpeggios. I was just like, ooh, that's so good. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
almost sounds kind of Pinkerton-ish.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this definitely this is one of the tracks, but I think that's what's really interesting is thematically with the lyrics for this record. Like I think that it's kind of like not as sad boy as Pinkerton, but like it still has a lot of the same sort of basement dweller vibes, as it were,
Basement
of
dweller.
Pinkerton.
I like that description.
Like with this one, it's like this one is like just a very lovesick track where it's just like, okay, like the lyric, you always find a way to ditch me. And it's just like, I love the way that he puts that because it's not like, oh, I'm so in love and I'm so heartbroken that you're gone. He's just like, bruh, why do you keep ditching me? Like, I think the frankness of it just kind of, I find really funny.
Yeah, there's definitely more confidence to it in a way.
Yeah.
Like there's
Hey,
something I
shout
feel
outs
like.
to the Red album.
What about the Red Album? Sorry.
Red album Rivers, the most confident Rivers we will ever see.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
never
that
see a
was
Rivers that confident again.
no. I mean that was Daddy Cowboy Rivers.
Oh yeah.
He only appears in my dreams.
Only in Dreams? Blue
Only in
album
dreams.
reference?
Yeah. Hey.
Hey. But
Where
yeah,
are we?
Death
Take
and
control or death and destruction?
Death and Destruction.
Okay, okay.
I just hit him with the really smooth segue, so you didn't notice that we changed songs.
That was so
Transit.
smooth. That's what we're about.
Yes,
Smooth.
sir. But yeah, I love the builds on this. I love the guitar solo is very simple but very effective. And a lot of the just the builds and like the way that it dies back down. Um, yeah. Yeah, it's just a great track.
I agree.
Yeah.
I have also my last note on this track is loud solo.
Yes,
God,
loud
have the
solo.
loud solo.
I do. I just love how the lead guitar just takes control of the whole thing, and I wonder if it's Brian or Rivers doing it. It almost sounds kind of Brian-ish, but it's probably Rivers. But just the way he just kind of
Yeah.
tweaks off during the vocals and just keeps picking away. It's just so melodic.
Yeah. And there's like also this theme of using like these triplet guitar riffs. And like I wrote it down as a note for another track, but it's also on this track. Like I love the use of these like triplet arpeggios up and down the neck. And we can get into that for which I forget which track it was that had the triplets in the guitar riff. But it's something that they do a lot and it adds a chunkiness to it that I really, really like. And like a lot of the other solos on other albums, again, we're going back to more Weezer albums, like a lot of the solos on the other ones stay very much within this sort of rhythmic, kind of very straight one and two and, or a few one andas or whatever, like very straight. But then this is just like you get these triplets and it just kind of feels a little bit wobbly and you're just like, ooh, that's really nice.
Yeah. And then we've got
But
Slob.
then this is the Basement Dweller track of the album.
I love this. Is honestly a tie for my favorites. Like this is tied for my favorite song on the album. I love Slob.
I feel like this song gets a lot of hate for no good reason. Like I've heard people say that they really don't like this song, but I think it's one of the best on the album. Like,
It is just it's so, and I'm gonna use this word a few times. It's so explosive, and like that's what I love about this
So
album.
cathartic.
It's cathartic. It's too catchy for its own good. Like I love that chorus. Get yourself a wife.
job.
Get yourself a job. It's super fun to play on guitar, and just the build up,
Yeah.
like the way it just keeps building up, and the chorus just explodes. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you know
it's
me at
pure
all,
energy.
you know I'm a sucker for pacing. And this track has it in spades. Oh my gosh, the pacing on this thing is incredible. I love the way that it starts with this just explosive build. One of my favorite things to do, I'm also a drummer, so I view this album through a very drum focused lens.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar riffs are really cool, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a guitarist, I'm a drummer, so that's what I tend to focus on. Is I love the use of just like this is something Pat does on a lot of records, but he does it a lot on a lot on Maladroit. He's just like eighth notes on the crash and the snare drum just to build up like and I love the way that he builds that out of the first chorus and then you get into the halftime for the second verse and then it goes back into like full time for the second chorus and the building on this thing is so good. So good.
And that wah pedal on the solo, it's so heavy, and everything about the song is in your face. Like right from the beginning, it just starts off with this distorted, like these distorted arpeggios just turned up to 11. Like everything about the song is just in your face, and the lyrics almost tell this self-sabotaging story of just, this absolute piece of shit like waste of space, and it's just so I felt like that guy.
Yeah. It's a bit too relatable of a character that Rivers portrays there. Again, going back to the basement dweller thing, where he's just like talking about this character where it's like, I can't remember a movie I watched with my roommate. Can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but it's like this dude who just like he does drugs in his basement and like but the entire thing is him and his brother following clues around a city where he's just like paying attention to all these little clues and his brother's just like I'm extremely successful but my life is falling apart but you just kind of follow these clues around and life works out for you. What the heck? And like I probably think about that because of the line waiting for little clues to appear. But yeah, if I
Is
think
this
of what the movie is,
Jeff Who Lives at Home?
go ahead. Yes.
I
Yes,
love that
that's the
movie.
That's the movie.
Yeah, it's a
It's
great
such
one.
a fun movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely
but
see that. I do kind of envision it as a similar character who just he'd rather just live his life in this weird nonsensical way as opposed to just the bare minimum of ambition.
Yeah.
yeah, and
The
then it.
way
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the way I took this when I first listened, thinking that this album followed some sort of theme. I was like, okay, Maladroit's the title. That's like someone that's like ineffective, just there. And I was like, okay, this person on the cover, maybe they're like representing this theme of just a slob. And apparently, this person's name is like Rupert Peasley or something. I don't know if I got that wrong, but the guy like fans name that guy on the couch. I don't know. They just do a lot of things. But yeah, I took that as like going towards a theme. I'm not sure if there's a theme to this album considering how it was put together with the whole fan thing. But yeah. I think if it was a
Yeah,
theme, this would be like the peak
this is
thing.
the Welcome to the Black Parade of Maladroit, and you
Basically.
cannot tell me otherwise.
Welcome to the
The
brown sofa.
centerpiece of the Welcome to the Get Yourself a Wife, Get Yourself a Job.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, welcome to the real
But
world.
yeah, no. Oh my gosh. But I definitely agree with you, Mal. I think that lyrically you can hear that on a lot of other tracks as well. Like the theme of like this sort of like slothly character who's just kind of like vibing and not really contributing a whole lot to society. Like it's not exclusively on this track. I think there's some of the themes of that on Keep Fishin', despite the fact that there's a lot of nonsense lyrics. Keep Fishin' has some of those lyrical themes of you gotta like all that, like you gotta be productive, but you're not kind of thing. But yeah, I think that this is sort of the centerpiece of the record where it's just like this huge explosive song where it feels like your dad yelling at you, hey, get off the couch,
Get a
go get a
job.
job, get a wife. And it's so cathartic because it's like I feel like a lot of people have been in that scenario where they've had to have that moment where they pick up their life and just go and be an adult. And I know I had that moment in COVID when I was just staying at my parents' house because I didn't have a job because the place I worked closed. And so I was just like sitting doing nothing, and my dad was like, "Hey, yo, go out and get a job. Like you need to be working. You're just sitting around doing nothing all day." And I'm like, you know what? There might be some truth to that.
You know what? Yeah.
You might be right.
Yeah, this is definitely, when I think of Maladroit, I think of this song.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely. I think that this is like the correct pick if you want to like, if it's like, okay, I want to get you hooked on Maladroit, this song. But if
I mean,
if I want to get somebody hooked on,
yeah, it encompasses the sound, and it just like, it describes the literal definition of Maladroit. Like, this is a Maladroit person.
Right.
very true. But if I want to get somebody hooked on Weezer as a whole, I would show them Burnt Jam. Next
Yes.
track, smooth
Oh,
transition.
yes.
Let's go.
Bro.
God,
So
that,
this
that was
is
so
probably my
smooth.
favorite track.
This is the vibe right here.
This is tied with Slob for my favorite.
I so love this song. This is like, so I did like the Weezer song sorter thing a while ago. And I believe that this was either the highest or second highest song that wasn't from Blue or Pinkerton. And so I think that it's just the energy of the whole track. I love the way that it has all of these different tonal shifts. I love the way that it has these sad boy lyrics. I love the vocals on it. I love the way that the drums are. The drums are super relaxed and sort of like, but they're also got a lot of complexity and nuance to them. Ah, it's so good. It's basically like Island in the Sun, but better.
Yeah, it does have this like romantic beachy vibe to it. And you would think that that would be out of place in Maladroit, but it's not, because it builds up to that chorus that's just booming and instrumental, that I feel like they seem together so well, and it keeps it in place with the rest of the record.
Yeah, for sure.
sure.
I don't know if you had any thoughts on it, Mal.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, similar to what Red said, of just like you go from this aggressive like back to like I'm on a beach again, you know. So I think the energy control, like just the flow of the track, just keeps you there in that space.
And it's short and sweet.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's short. It's
It
only
is.
2.5 minutes long. Keeps you wanting more.
Right.
Yeah. But they fit so much into those 2.5 minutes. It's like there's so much to unpack on this song. Like it's like I just kind of write down little bullet points for each track. And this one I had like 5 bullet points when I usually just try and do 3. Because I'm just like, yo, there's just so much going on in this track and I absolutely love it for that. But then it's just like over. And then you're just like, that was really nice. It was a really nice flash of sun before I go back to living in the basement.
Like, oh, this is
Back
what
to the
the outside
basement.
is like.
Yes, onto the beach, back into the basement.
Yeah, this is one of those songs that
This is what
every
it
time I
feels like
listen.
to
Sorry.
This is what it feels like to touch grass, boys.
Yeah. Wow, that was great. Back inside we go.
Yes.
To space rock.
Those falsettos, just the vocals of him just, you gotta love. I love it.
I think before we get into like the vocals and stuff, I just have to say, whenever I hear the intro, I think of Jingle Bell Rock.
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty similar.
Except much
I don't know why, but
fuzzier.
every time I hear it, I'm just like, why is that the melody for Jingle Bell Rock? And then I hear the high falsetto vocals that Weezer has a lot of the times on their early albums, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is Weezer. This is not Jingle Bell Rock. I was bamboozled.
Yeah, this song is it's just pure Maladroit fuzz. Like, it's just so loud, and again, those falsettos, it hits your nerves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have aggression and then hoo in the back, you know. Just
And then again, that like meshing of all these different like sounds together, like Maladroit could have been a much heavier album than it was. And by heavy I don't mean like the heaviness of just the guitars, but like overall like feeling like very like all low level stuff. But then you just have these like high pitched vocals over the top, and it's just like it makes the album feel just a little lighter. and that adds so much to it. And this is just another example of them doing that.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's impressive about it is like not only is Maladroit really explosive and loud, but there is a proper amount of restraint. Like it's not just that like they're entirely letting loose. It does come off as very self-aware.
Yeah. Weezer doesn't always do that. Sometimes they let loose a little too much, or they don't let loose enough.
Yeah, well, we
But
know
this
what it
is
sounds like when they let loose, and it's, not my cup of tea.
it's a bit ugly. Shoutouts to whenever Rivers has full creative control, and then he makes something like freaking Pacific Daydream.
Oh my god, that
Uh
was like being so Mel, like being a Weezer fan in 2017 was one of the most like every Weezer fan felt like they were in an abusive relationship because they came out with the White Album, they came out with Everything Will Be All Right, and then the White Album, and it was these two promising records that legitimately sounded like old rock Weezer, and everybody was like, "Yeah, you're doing it again. We knew we stick around for a reason," and they came out with Pacific Daydream. That's just the fucking worst, and it's like you said you were gonna change.
yeah. I describe Pacific Daydream as eating sand, the album. Like that's what it feels like to me because it's it's too summery. It's too summery, it's too poppy, and it's also boring. And like having sand in your mouth is an unpleasant sensation, but
Crunch.
it's also boring. Like sand doesn't taste like much. And so like that's why Pacific Daydream is the eating sand album. And I know there's a bunch of people who stand Pacific Daydream and I'm just like, no, it just makes me feel like I'm eating sand.
I'm gonna use that now.
Eating Sand,
Feel
the
free.
album.
That is good.
But yeah. Um Speaking of abusive relationships, Slave.
Slave. What a transition.
We're
Like,
on
oh
point with the
man,
transitions today. Let's go, boys.
yeah, you need some bread because that was just smooth like peanut butter. Man, I don't know. I couldn't think of something funny to say after that.
Sheesh.
Like peanut butter. Like, yeah.
Man, that was Jif smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This track feels to me like it could have been the third single for the record. Like if they had to put out a third single, it would have been this one.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it's just a nice, pleasant track, I think, midway through the album. Like, I think the pacing of this record is really good because it goes Death and Destruction into Slob, which are two of the heaviest tracks, and then you get Burnt Jam into Space Rock, which are both a little weirder. And then you get Slave, which just kind of brings it back to this sort of pop structure with these really nice melodies, and like, it's just
Catchy.
catchy and it's fun, and it's just pleasant. And I'm just like, this is a fun time.
Oh, it's catchy as hell. Like one of the catchiest tracks on the record.
Yeah. And it's like one that it's like I don't often think about this track, but I'm always like at the end of it, I'm just always like, that was a fun time. Like it's like one of those things where it's like it could be my favorite song if it was on a different record from that record, but like since it's on Maladroit with all the other bangers, I'm just like, that was nice. But if it was on like another random pop record, I'd be like, oh, this is probably my favorite track from the record because it just kind of is so nice. It's just, I don't know, it's just like a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Like, I'm like, yo, this is just like an 8 out of 10. What can I say?
Have you heard the acoustic version?
I have not.
Is it
It's
on Spotify?
interesting. Uh, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Is it on one of Rivers' solo albums?
No, I think it's one of Weezer's live like AOL sessions or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Huh. I have not thought of this track in the context of being acoustic. We'll
it's
have to like
interesting.
send a link or something like that, another bonus link for the viewers. Because
Yeah,
I think that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, oh, this might be really interesting acoustic.
it is because I think that a lot of Weezer's acoustic stuff is like fucking amazing, but it was one of the first times I ever heard a Maladroit song played like that, and it's still
Mm.
good, but you can really tell how much of the record is fueled by the instrumentals because he's got the acoustic guitar and he's love barely alive, and it's kind of
Right.
wow, this is almost not the same song.
Mm.
Yeah. I love their acoustic stuff though. Like I think that their Tiny Desk concert is among my favorite of their live stuff. Like I think that the version of Living in LA, that's the single-handedly the reason that I don't think that that's a bad song. Like if it was only the version that we had on the Black album, like I would be like Living in LA is a trash song, but when I heard the acoustic version from like the Tiny Desk concert, I was just like, "Oh, this is just really nice and grooves pretty well." I think that it's just like a solid track across the board. And then so now I'm just like think of that when I think of the song. So I'm just like, "Oh, this isn't actually that bad of a song. It's just kind of got hit by the pop bug that Rivers is
There
so."
there are a couple Weezer songs that I had that same reaction to. Like Feels Like Summer. When I first heard that, I was like, this is a garbage song and they should feel bad. And then I heard the acoustic version and I was like, oh man, this it's almost like they sprinkled some Parmesan cheese in the sand. It's kind of nice.
That's
Hey,
some
yo, you like
flavor,
your
man.
sand with or without the Parmesan cheese?
You know what? I'll go. I'll
Oh,
I'll be daring today.
I think that we're gonna have to call this episode "Eating Sand."
Eating
It,
sand with red.
it, eating sand with red. That's the podcast title, I think, for
Oh,
this
that's
episode.
that's the
beautiful.
one. That's the one.
I want to get that on a shirt.
Yo, the D4A merch, eating sand. Like, we'll just have like a bunch of like random quotes. Like, it's like basically, I like Pink Floyd will be one of our shirts or something like that. Or that's a Pink Floyd reference. Eating sand with red. Go take your positivity somewhere else, Christine. Don't do drugs. All of the classic quotes. Um, Let us know in the comments if you want us to put out the merch. If you would cop the merch.
Yes, sir.
Have you heard the
Yes,
acoustic version
sir.
of Can't Stop Partying?
Oh gosh.
I have. No, like, okay, Mal, you have to understand that when people heard the acoustic, because the acoustic version came out before the version that we all know, and uh,
Love. Yeah.
yeah, before, and so like when people saw that Can't Stop Partying was on the track list for Ratitude, they thought that it was going to be a really good album because the acoustic version of it hits like this sort of somber, sort of like cry for help about being addicted to the partying lifestyle. But then we
It's
gotta
Weezer
stop
and
mixing
Wheezy.
alcohol and pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, he sounds
And so
he sounds tortured in the acoustic version. Like this is gonna sound like a joke, but like he wants to stop partying and he literally can't.
yeah, and then we got the version like actually I'm incredibly grateful for the version that we have on Ratitude because it is single-handed like it is my favorite ironic track of all time. Like I think the amount of bad that it is impressive. It is just insanely it's insanely funny to me that it got through loads of producers. It got past Rivers. Lil Wayne came in and dropped that absolute monstrosity of a set of bars on there. And they were like, "Yeah, this is trash. Drop it." And I'm just like, "How the frick did this get on like how the frick is this on an album? This thing is awful." But like at the same time it sort of like sums up everything that was wrong with 2010s or like late 2000s pop, which I think is just a summation of Ratitude as a whole. Is just like it was them seeing all of the bad parts about pop and being like, let's embrace this. And I think that's why I like Gratitude so much as an album. Like, it's probably like, it's probably like my sixth or seventh favorite Weezer album, despite how bad it is. I think it's their worst. Like, calling it their worst objectively, if I was to call it anything else like that, than that, I'd say I was disrespecting it because it's like, it feels like it earned that, you know?
How many albums are there so far? Is it 15?
I think there's like, yeah, I think there's like 15 albums out because you have Blue, Pinkerton Green, Maladroit, Red,
Make believe.
uh, Make Believe, Ratitude, Hurley. I don't really count Death to False Metal, but I think that I should. I should listen to that. I haven't listened to Death to False Metal because like I heard that it was just a compilation album, but apparently they actually recorded them all in like one studio session. They're just a bunch of old songs that they hadn't recorded. Um, so I think that you can count it as a studio album proper, but I just haven't gotten around to it. Um, but yeah, I think it's about 15. So it's like Gratitude lands solidly in the middle for me, just
I would
because of
say if there's 15 albums, Ratitude is my 16th favorite Weezer album.
Yes.
Very nice. Where were we on the track
We were on
list?
Slave.
Oh yeah, Fall Together then, the next track.
I love that song.
More drum intros. Always love me a good drum intro. I'm always a sucker for a drum intro.
I love that metally guitar at the beginning, the dum 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 dum, like that, you know?
Yes.
This is just one of those other ones, kind of like Slave, that it's just super catchy. You listen to it and you can't get it out of your head.
Yeah, it definitely stays in my head a lot. And I also love the way that the chorus opens up because like you have these very staccato guitar riffs on the verses and then they just hit these open chords on the chorus and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." And then they have like the vocals and it's just like I'm like, "Yo, this is nice." And also the guitar solo on this track is probably like my favorite on the record. It's so good.
It is a good one.
You have any thoughts on the track, Mal, besides dun dun?
Not really.
Would you like to reiterate that one more time for the viewers?
Dum 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 dum. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, thank you. Oh, also, the drum triplet fills. I think this was like on the second to like, I think it was like on the outro to the second chorus. Pat does these triplet fills, and he doesn't usually do like drum triplet fills in the way that he did that there. And as a drummer, I noticed that, and I was like, "Ooh, that's tasty. I like that. I'm stealing that." Um, but yeah, just another solid track. I think that towards the end of the Maladroit track list, I have this sort of thing where a lot of the tracks blend together, and they're also all a lot shorter towards the end. Like you have your like nice 3 to 4 minute songs on the front half of the record, and then Death and Destruction's like 5.5 minutes. But then as you get through like to the back end, they're all like 1.5 to 2.5 minutes long, and it kind of helps with the pacing of the album because it feels like you're just kind of moving along at a breakneck pace through different ideas. As you get into the last two tracks, Possibilities. I think it's like 2 minutes exactly or something. Not too long, but I really like this track.
I don't know. To me, Possibilities, it almost sounds like it could have been on the Green album. Like it's predictable. It's kind of this weird. It's almost like their try at making a punk song, but it's like the Green album, but with way better production.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I was like, I think I wrote down Cheap Trick as in the band,
Mm-hmm.
and
I
it
can
just
see
kind of
that.
reminded me of that. I don't know, that might be a bit of a stretch, but like that was what I thought of when I thought of the track. Um, but I love the pacing of the track. It's just like I think that it's a nice little short track, and I also this one gets stuck in my head a lot too. A lot of Maladroit gets stuck in my head at random moments. Like I'll have not listened to the album for like 2 months, and I'll just get like a melody for Dope Nose stuck in my head, and I'm like, what's that doing there? But
And
this is another one of those tracks where I'm just like,
you just wake up in a cold
this is
sweat.
fun. Wake up in a cold sweat. Rivers is just like the ghost of Rivers Cuomo is hovering over my bed, just screaming the lyrics to Dope Nose into my head.
You just
And I'm
like
just like,
you
go
wake up
away,
in a
Rivers.
you wake up in a
Cuomo's
cold
dead.
sweat and you're like, cheese smells so good.
No, he's not dead. That's the joke.
Oh, I'm like, wait, what?
I mean, I feel like every incarnation of Rivers, every previous incarnation that comes with every album dies when the next one shows up.
No, that's really true. Like, we had Blue Album Rivers definitely died, and then Pinkerton Album Rivers died a slow and painful death. And then I feel like Green into Maladroit was probably the same Rivers. And then Red Album Rivers, my goat, my absolute king. He is I love Red Album Rivers. It is one of my favorite, like, it is my single favorite persona that Rivers has ever thrown on.
And
And I think
it's a
just the funniest thing
terrible
ever.
like Red Album Rivers is a terrible songwriter, but he just doesn't care. He's just like, yeah, I suck, whatever. Look at my hat.
My cowboy hat.
Yeah. I have a lot of opinions on the Red Album. I think that the Red Album should be interpreted very similarly to the Beatles' White Album as a work of satire more than anything else.
Oh man,
Like,
let me just say, you are not gonna piss anybody off by making that comparison.
Yeah, well,
Like nobody is gonna get mad about that. Oh boy.
Yeah, we're gonna
I
we're
mean,
gonna
but
get some comments.
yeah, I definitely think that like I think that Red Album Rivers is like it's clear he's super self-aware on that album though. Like I love how aware he is that he's like, frick yeah, like the line, "How's this for arts and crafts?" Wa na 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 na. That's right.
Like, oh
Like
man, you rhymed arts and crafts with arts and crafts, and you're so confident about it.
it's so good. I
I got
I love that track.
Oh, dude, if you
The Red-
if you want to have me on again to do an episode on the Red album, I'm totally down.
I gotta listen now. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's having you on again for another Weezer episode. We got to have Alex on to do T-Pab. We got a couple return episodes that we have to do at some point, but yeah, that would be funny because I think that the Red Album has a lot of untapped potential of what to discuss about it because people are just like, oh yeah, the Red Album just kind of sucks. Like that's the consensus I've seen. Like you have a few diehards, but I'm just kind of like the Red Album is just incredibly funny to me. Like it's like Ratitude, but like with a little bit more competency.
Yeah, it's like Ratitude but self-aware.
Yeah. But yeah, on to the last track. Before we go
Wait, Love
Oh,
too
did we
far
skip
off of
we skipped Love Explosion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Love Explosion isn't the last track. Huh. Oh yeah, I have one more note. Nice. I like Love Explosion as well. This probably has some of my favorite melodies on the whole album. Yet another track that gets stuck in my head, where I just find myself like, and I'm just like, it just gets stuck in my head, and I'm just like, these are some nice melodies. Like I think besides the White Album, this album has my favorite melodies.
Well,
They're
you know
just
why that
so
melody
catchy.
you know why that melody is catchy, right?
Why is the melody catchy?
Come on, do the locomotion with me. Come on, baby, do the
Yo,
locomotion.
Yo, I didn't even peep.
I didn't think about that. That's crazy. Um,
That's
but
actually
yeah,
funny.
no. A good artist borrows, a great artist steals.
Yeah, which one is it? We'll never know.
Yes.
But yeah,
But
this
yeah,
Love
I
Explosion
love this
is
track.
it is one of the more like similar to Slav. It's so maladroity. It's just it gets down to that
Yeah.
quintessential maladroit sound where it just opens with weirdness and just right
Yeah.
in your face weirdness, and the solo is so metal.
I
And
love that solo.
yeah, and I love my favorite part is the pre-chorus that just builds up dun 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 dun. It just gets progressively louder.
Yeah. And then guitar solo, again, gotta mention the guitar solo always. He does the triplets again that I mentioned earlier. Absolutely love everything that adds to every bit of this album. And it's just like, this is probably the most fun track on the album. Like, Burnt Jam is fun, but it's like also like Sad Boy. Like, this was just like, yeah, fun time. Frick yeah, live life.
It sounds like a love explosion.
Exactly.
Hey.
Yeah, and it's another relatable thing. We've all been there. He feels it.
Right. Just an
Mhm.
explosion.
Don't you guys love it on your 16th birthday when you just spontaneously combust? That's my favorite thing.
Oh my god, dude. I was a little scared at first, but the pain was part of the pleasure.
This
That's what I'm
man.
saying. When you just go whoop, and then
Kaboom.
from that moment on, you are a man.
Yeah, like at your 16th birthday where you literally die and then you're reincarnated with facial hair?
Exactly.
Yes, it's crazy. It's unfortunately Rivers went through that much later, and that's how we got Red Album Rivers.
Yeah, Rivers is there. There's some kind of hormonal imbalance in there. That's just his puberty. We've been watching his puberty since the '90s, and I don't know when it's ever gonna end.
That's true. That is so true. Oh my gosh. I love memeing on Rivers Cuomo. He's such an easy guy to meme on.
He's so memeable, and he knows it, and he makes it so easy.
And then he just does like the funniest things. Like I don't know if you've seen like the clips of his TikTok live streams where he'll just play like the first two chords of Wonderwall over and over again. Like he'll just like start playing Wonderwall and say today and then like cut off or whatever. It's so funny.
That's amazing.
But yeah.
And then
But-
I don't know if you
December.
had any other notes for this track before we moved on to the last one.
I've pretty much said it. It's peak Maladroit.
Sure. All right, December. I know you dug this one, Malachi. You want to know how I
Yes.
knew?
Because that key
You wanna
signature.
tell him now?
Guess what key signature
Keys-
that's in? Guess what key signature that's in?
Do you mean time signature, Mal?
Yes.
I don't know anything about that either, so in my head I was like, yeah, key signature. What is it?
Yeah, no, my brain said time, but my mouth said key.
Yeah, no, I'm a guitar player. I don't know anything about that stuff. I don't know anything about actual music.
What's music theory? I'm a guitarist.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
piss.
You mean like a bar chord?
But yes,
But this time signature, it's N68. That boot.
And we all-
boot.
yeah. So this is another running joke on the podcast, Red, that Malachi is an absolute simp for anything in 6/8.
Oh
Like-
man.
Yes.
So like I was just like, Mal's gonna love this track because it's in 6/8 and he loves 6/8.
it's just an instant way to get me to like a song. You know?
Yeah, it's an instant cheat code, and then it's also got them like doo-wop chord progressions too. And it's like the lyrics are overly cheesy and like everything about this track is just like a fun cheesy way to end the record.
It's a perfect closer, and that finale is just so satisfying. And I feel like it goes back like this. Most of this album, he's been being swaggy, he's been a metalhead, he's been loud and boisterous, and this goes back to that core Weezer sound. Like, okay, we still are trying to get laid, like we still do want a girlfriend.
And he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, yo, let me hit him with this ballad real quick with these super cheesy lyrics."
Yeah,
he's
like
not
I
like
mean,
he's just
I'm still,
swooning, you know?
I'm a headbanger, but I'm sensitive.
I'm
Yeah.
sensitive. It's like Holiday from the Blue album.
Yeah,
But I think he did it better here.
I agree.
Only love can make it rain.
Yeah, like make no mistake, I still wish I had a girlfriend.
Bum, bum, bum.
And then the drum fills. Pat is one of those drummers that the more I pay attention to the drums on Weezer stuff, the more I'm like, dang, this is a drummer who just understands what is needed at any given time. Like there are drummers that are like technically more impressive, but like he understands the feel of everything on Weezer's discography, and that's what I love about him is it's just like he's got such a melodic drumming style where it's just like it moves the momentum of the tracks along super well. And this is another example of him just like absolutely moving everything along at the pace that it needs to move at.
We were just talking about how the term underrated is thrown around a little too much. I would call Pat an underrated drummer.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like there is so much nuance to everything that he does. I know we're talking about Maladroit, but that hasn't stopped us from branching off into other albums on the
Yeah.
rest of this podcast. So I'm going to talk about the drumming on Pinkerton for a second. That's my favorite.
No other one. I love that track. And I'm sorry, go on. I don't know drum terms, so I'm just going to be like, boom, boom, boom.
Ba-doom.
Yeah. My favorite Weezer track is Across the Sea, and the drums is a major reason for that. Because like he's just got like such this incredible awareness, like the way that he moves between different feels throughout the song, like it's just like starts off with a simple like on the verses, and then it goes into like this sort of like on the chorus, and then like all the fills are just so nice, and then like the crazy breakdown into the bridge is nuts. Oh my gosh. But yeah, the drums on December are also incredible. Like I love the fills that he does and stuff. But yeah, I think that it's just a perfect way to close off a super underrated record within the mainstream sphere of the rock world. Not necessarily within the Weezer fandom, but I think overall, as you said, Red, it is super underrated in the general rock sphere.
Yeah, and I know that you've seen my video about Maladroit, but my general theory as to why that is because Weezer albums, they all come with some kind of drama or some kind of significance. like whether it's the intro or selling out and coming back and this and that. And I feel like there wasn't really one of those with Maladroit. And when that has to compare with the rest of their discography, it it gets overlooked a little bit because there's no, oh, this is when they sold out. Oh, this is when they did this. Oh, this is when they tricked everyone. It's a good album. Like, it's just a really good album.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
gimmick.
it's just there's no gimmick to it. It's just a solid album. Like, and the only other real album that I can think about that didn't really have a lot of drama surrounding it, as far as I understand from Weezer lore. Again, I've only really been a fan for like
Lore.
2 years. Is Hurley, but Hurley sucks, so we don't care about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I might have made that comparison in that video where Hurley was kind of similar, but Hurley's not really good in my opinion. So that's kind of why
Hurley,
I understand why people
Hurley is
forget
one
about
of
it.
Isn't that
of-
one with
of
the
the, like-
face on it? That one
Yes.
actor from Lost.
and Rivers made it the album cover because it had a nice vibe.
Oh
I
my
think those were
gosh.
his exact words. He's like, it has a nice energy to it. And that is the entire reason why that is the album cover. And I think that that's hilarious, but it doesn't make me like the album anymore.
Have you seen the video where that guy came on stage with them at a concert and I think he sang My Name Is Jonas?
I have not seen the video.
He
Dang, got
sang
a lot of bonus links today.
Yeah, well, he sang one of the songs, and it's just funny because his singing voice is just ah.
They did it for the bit. Simple.
Yeah, for the memes.
They did it for the meme.
Weezer is one of the only bands that I feel like them doing it for the bit actually works. Like, when other musical artists try to embrace memes, they fail. But Weezer succeeds somehow. And I'm like, how do they do it? Like, it's like you got all of the memes with like, hey Weezer, can you cover Africa? And then they covered Rosanna instead, and everyone thought it was funny, and then they actually covered Africa. And then I really want to know if there was. I sent you that one picture right now of the music festival that had Lil Wayne and Weezer next to each other on like the listing of the bands.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to know if they actually played Can't Stop Partying or not. Because if they did, that would be hilarious.
And they need to get Lil Wayne on a guitar solo. Simple.
Oh yeah, the Lil
We
Wayne
need
guitar
more.
solo.
Need
Okay,
more.
that's a link that we'll
Terrible.
send to you, Red. Have you seen the Lil Wayne guitar
so-
solo?
I'm not even. Gonna
I think I
spoil it.
have a long time ago.
It's so bad.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so good.
great.
It's top 10 guitar solos of all time. Jimi Hendrix has nothing on Lil Wayne.
No.
That's all I'm gonna say.
What is Lil Wayne's real name?
I don't even remember.
I don't know. For
I don't
some,
remember either.
it's probably. I mean, for some
Oh, it's
reason.
Dwayne.
Oh, okay, never mind then.
Dwayne.
Like, for some reason, I was like, is his name Jimmy? Because I was gonna say that is the single best guitar solo that a guy named Jimmy has ever done.
That would
Oh my
be
gosh.
Amazing.
But his name's not Jimmy,
That
so
would
yeah, my joke failed
But
as
if his name-
usual.
If his name is Dwayne, like I'm gonna say it right now. Can't Stop Partying is a much better feature than Face Off by a dude named Dwayne.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
It's about drive.
The Rock rapping. But that is a conversation for another time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, Red. It was great to have you. Before we head off for the day, do you have anything you would like to plug?
thanks for having me. This has been a great time, man. Whenever you want to do it again, I'm down. But
I bet.
For a plug, my YouTube channel is Red Castin. I talk about Weezer. I also talk about movies and pop culture analysis, and I, subscribe. And maybe you can give me a little money, or if not, you can just give me some attention, which is more valuable than anything monetary.
That's very true. His analysis videos are fantastic. I think that his Maladroit video, I found that and I was like, yo, it would be dope to have this dude on the podcast. But I looked through your YouTube page and I couldn't find any like thing to like message you. And I was like, frick. And then I was just there one day on the Weezer subreddit I can't remember what my comment was, but you awarded me with like Reddit award, and I was like, oh shoot, I got a Reddit award from the Red Castin, and then I messaged you, hey, you want to force my friend to listen to Weezer? And you're like, frick yeah, let's do it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it's funny because I hate that Maladroit video.
Really?
Cause
Why is that?
Because it's the first one I ever made. So
yeah.
to me, I'm always gonna nitpick it and be like, my voice is stupid.
Right. That's the plague of a content creator or an artist or anyone that like puts something creative out, you know.
Yeah, I've got the plague. Everything I do is terrible. Don't subscribe to me.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I can say from a secondhand source of someone who is not biased by hating the sound of their own voice, that Red stuff is very good.
Well,
I
thank you,
enjoy
man.
watching his videos.
I
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I think that's a wrap.
That's
Be
a
sure to
wrap.
follow our socials. Check out the Patreon. Uh, you can join the Discord. Red is in the Discord. He's not active because he doesn't use Discord like that. But all the guests that we've had on the podcast are sitting in the Discord regardless of whether they're active or not. So there is a chance that you could talk to one of the guests, or you can talk to us. I'm very active on Discord. If you send something there, I will
I
see
am as
it.
well.
And yeah, it's just a fun time. Check out our socials. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube. If you're not following our podcast on Spotify, follow it on podcast.
Do it.
Follow it on podcast.
Just follow it on
Follow it on.
podcast. That is a wrap.
But yeah, that is a wrap. I will catch you guys later. Thank you so much for listening, and bye.
Nyerum.